Good evening, everyone. Welcome at the 111th branch meeting today with a very interesting agenda where we have Benjamin Ben van Damme guiding us through virtual reality safety training. He will do that after I will go through the introduction and branch updates. So let's start with that part. LinkedIn page, we see a continuation in growing of our followers, which I'm very happy with. We were able to share earlier last month that we reached the 1,500 followers. That's something I think as a branch we are very proud of, and I'm happy to see that, you know, we continue to grow in number of followers month on month. So that's yeah, good news, and then again I'm very pleased with that. Risk Excellence Awards, for those who have not submitted their suggestions, unfortunately you are now too late for the 2023 Excellent Awards. The entries have been closed. Finalists will be announced on March 20, so I would suggest to keep an eye on either the LinkedIn page or the website to see who will be finalists, and yeah, probably get some inspiration out of this to nominate yourself, an organization or a colleague for next year Excellence Awards. Some updates on training provided by IRSM. Majority of the training starting from early March, starting with meaningful measures, followed by effective problem solving on March 8, CDM and building safety, an involving picture March 9 and 10, all the way to March 28 with introduction into ISO 45003. The full list of training that will be provided by IRSM can be found on the website under training, and if you require any more information on a specific training topic, feel free to reach out to the training department on training@irsm.org. Branch meetings. Tomorrow there will be a India branch meeting, followed next week on February 14th with the Egypt branch meeting, which will be on analyzing evidence. And then throughout the month of February, we also see branch meetings in Saudi Arabia, India, and Qatar. And then March, starting on the 7th in Oman, followed by UAE on March 8. If you want to attend any of these branch meetings, please register for these via the IRSM website. In our latest international branch meeting we also agreed that we would share content and presentations amongst the different international branches, so that we, you know, kind of rotate between the different branches. So we might have in the near future a presenter from any of the other international branches. But as I said, feel free to register and attend any of the international branches, or for that matter, any of the UK or Europe branch meetings. Together with the India, tomorrow will be a West Midlands branch meeting on selecting a safe ladder, and then we have on the 15th of February the London branch meeting on mental health, stress and personal resilience. Like Julie mentioned at the beginning of this session, all branch meetings are recorded and can be found on the YouTube channel of RSM, and you will also receive a link to the YouTube channel probably by tomorrow. Membership benefits, as I keep mentioning month to month, there are a lot of benefits of being a RSM member. So for those who still considering to become a member, don't hesitate, become a member. I think, well, I know for sure that at the moment the 20% discount on an annual membership is still in place. So have a look at our website, look at the benefits of becoming a member, and I would like to welcome you as an official member. More questions, more on this topic, feel free to reach out either to IRSM via IRSM website, or reach out to any of the branch members of the UAE branch. Future branch meetings. Next one will be on March 8th, followed by April 12th and May 10. So that's every second Wednesday of the month. And again, if there's any topic you would like us to address during the branch meetings, put your suggestions forward. We also opened up for anyone amongst us to share best practices. So if you have a best practice that you would like to share with the members, please let us know, and we can give you a slot during our next branch meeting where we can learn from your best practices as safety professionals. One important update from the UAE, and I assume everyone is aware of it, but the UAE announced 2023 as the year of sustainability with the theme Today for Tomorrow. That means that from the UAE, the government will put a lot of emphasis on sustainability. The UAE has launched an official website for the year of sustainability, mentioned at the top right, bottom right of the slide. Feel free, keep an eye on it. I think there's a lot upcoming in the UAE, a lot of focus, a lot of commitments from our leaders. So I think that this will be definitely an interesting year with regards to sustainability. And I also believe that sustainability, and especially the environmental part of sustainability, will become part of our role as health and safety professionals. So if you want to get more information on the focus of the UAE and the way, the journey forward within the UAE, I would suggest to keep an eye on the website, follow the news on what's upcoming. But I think we will have a very interesting year with regards to this topic. Today's presentation by Benjamin Ben van Damme will be on virtual reality safety training. I had the privilege to meet Ben earlier today for a live demonstration. For me, it was the first time to actually participate in virtual reality training. And I have to admit that I found it mind-blowing. He put on some really nice training sessions in such a way, working at height, that in front of me a platform fell down, which felt really scary, actually to be present in that environment. The only thing from the training I missed was actually the wind blowing through my hair, but the sound of the waves, everything was there. Was a real kind of scenario. I very much liked it. So Benjamin, if you're ready for it, it's yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Branko. First of all, big thank you to the 38 people that made themselves available to participate in today's webinar. I appreciate you being here and listening to me for around 45 minutes. Like Branko said, we're going to talk today about VR safety training and how that's being used in your sector to really make a really big revolution and shift in workplace learning. Yeah, just like Branko said, we put him through one of our demo kits earlier today, and he really enjoyed it. It's a shame I'm not able to show all of you today with an actual virtual reality headset how it goes about and what it feels like, but feel free to reach out to me after this presentation and we can connect and set up a time slot between us as well, so you can come and try it out. We're available all over the UAE and Saudi, so don't hesitate. So knowing that I can't give you guys a VR headset right now, I'm going to try and do the second best thing, guys, and I'm going to start with a very short 30-second video just to give you some visuals on what it basically looks like and what it feels like. So I'm just going to try and play that for you right now. Here we go. Alrighty, I hope that went well and everybody was able to see the video. If not, Julie, let me know. But yeah, so that was a sneak peek at what virtual reality solutions can look like and what it is doing today. So before I jump in, guys, I just want to give you a little bit of context because we're not some super techie Silicon Valley company software engineers that have never experienced any health and safety. This company was actually started by Michael O'Reilly, who was health and safety director throughout Algeria, Southeast Asia, all across the world for like 15 plus years. And he went back to Australia where he was born and started a traditional training company. So your typical actual practical training, but also classrooms. And over the years, he grew it out to be one of the biggest training centers in Australia, but he was always lacking something. And that's something that he was lacking is finding a way that is truly engaging for blue collar workers to do their health and safety training, but also finding a way to put these guys in a situation where they can test themselves and practice a very dangerous situation without actually putting them at risk. And at a certain point, a couple of years ago, VR came to a stage where it's easy enough and affordable enough to really go to the open market. So he said he was going to put his money where his mouth is and is going to start a second company, which is NextWorld, and actually build that thing that he was always lacking. So I'm sharing that with you to say that we really think from a health and safety training perspective, because that is our background, and not just from the tech perspective, all right? So, like I said, why VR safety training? It's very simple because you can put people in these scenarios that are super, super dangerous, that can be lethal, and they can still train them without actually putting themselves at risk, but they will be prepared if that ever were to become a potential situation in real life, right? So the slide that you're seeing right now is basically the messaging here is there's a domino effect that goes all the way from really bad training to accidents happening. So today, when we put these blue collar workers who didn't necessarily go to college or university, usually they learn their trade by actually doing it themselves. and learning from people by doing. If you suddenly put them in a classroom for 1 hour, 2 hours, and you show them a whole bunch of text and photos and a PowerPoint on how to work safely, they get bored very, very easily, right? So basically that training becomes very, very ineffective because these people are disengaged, and that leads to very low knowledge retention. And there's been a lot of studies over the last couple of years. Often they're very well known under the Ebbinghaus curve. And the Ebbinghaus curve basically says that no matter who you teach, where you teach them, what you teach them, people remember about 10 to 20% from a classroom type of situation where you learn from, right? So we got people who are bored in the classroom, so they remember very little, which means there's going to be a big gap in their understanding of hazards and situational understanding. So when they're actually at work, they put themselves at risk, and that eventually leads to an accident. That's kind of the domino effect, right? So we know that is the current situation. There's a lot of studies proving this. There's even studies in Australia showing that 60% of all workplace accidents there, they come from ineffective learning. So why VR? Because VR can actually solve this, and solve this significantly better than anything that we've ever seen before. What you see on the screen here is basically the golden nuggets from a very important study that was done by PwC a few years ago, where they took a whole bunch of students, a whole bunch of actual employees, and they split them up into three big groups. Three big groups with all getting the same learning goals, same learning topics, just delivered with a different method of learning. So one group was classroom-based learning, typical, traditional. One group was e-learning, so videos online, and one group was virtual reality. When they did their, when they taught their students the topics and they went through all the learning goals and the topics, they tested everybody to see what their knowledge retention was. What they found was that the people that did classroom and the people that did e-learning remembered 10 to 20% of what they were being taught. So very similar to the Ebbinghaus curve, exactly what we expected. But the cool thing is, when they looked at the people who did virtual reality training, that cohort, they remembered 80% of what they were being taught. So it's 4 times higher knowledge retention than any of the other traditional methods. And it didn't just stop there. People that did the VR learning on those learning topics, they actually did those 3 times faster than what people in the classroom-based setting did. Because when you do the virtual reality learning, basically it's not static and linear, but it's very dynamic, and you can pick up a lot more information because a lot more is going on, and you train at your own individual pace, not at the pace that a classroom or a teacher goes. So we got 4 times higher knowledge retention, we got around 3 times faster learning, and all of this basically comes from people being way more emotionally connected to what they're learning. They're way more focused, because when you put on the headset, nothing happens unless you actually interact with your studies, because you're doing something. You're doing something in the virtual reality session. You're not just sitting on a chair listening to a PowerPoint session like you guys are doing right now. Probably half of you are already dozing off and thinking about you're hungry, or there's something going on at home, or there's a deadline you're supposed to meet. It's very, very typical for humans to get very easily distracted when they're not doing something themselves, right? So on screen right now, you should see some video snippets from one of our VR experiences to give you an example of what I just said, right? So in the first one, that's a man-machine plant interface training. So basically warehouse, and you're working around forklifts, and we're teaching the students how to do that in a safe way in the warehouse. So there's a forklift coming around the corner, and he wants to make a turn because that section is not blocked off, where another worker is doing some counting on inventory, and he has to do an emergency stop, so the top pallet floats off and almost crushes the other worker completely. So you're watching this as real point of view. You can even see your hands, right? So you would be able to move inside his experience. You can stand next to the other worker and feel like you are the one that's going to be run over by this forklift. Same thing on the right. Basically, you're seeing somebody trying to take something from the top shelf. Instead of a sturdy, good ladder, he's standing on a chair with wheels. Very dangerous, so he falls off. What we want to show you, what I want to show and share with you here is basically, because you're inside that virtual reality and you're seeing this happen, you're living it yourself, there's a lot of engagement and emotional connection that you're making to that topic, to the bad way of doing something, to the dangerous way that we're simulating it. So you're associating those emotional memories with that learning content, and that helps you create very long-term behavioral change. That's why it's so powerful. So for each experience that we have, this is going to be different. Where VR stands in terms of traditional and like theoretical and practical learning is somewhere in the middle, right? It doesn't mean that VR has to replace everything that you're currently doing. It fits in perfectly as sort of a hybrid solution to empower the rest of these learning methods that you're already deploying. So you can still do classroom training, you can still do actual practical, tangible training, but VR stands somewhere in the middle. It allows you to do things that weren't possible before. It allows you to put these people in situations so dangerous that you wouldn't be able to practice them otherwise, right? We see a lot of companies that start with this blended hybrid approach, and then quite quickly when they get familiar with rolling this out in their organization, they shift to almost completely doing virtual reality training. So what do solutions like this look like? There's a couple of vendors on the market that you can look at. What I'm showing you on screen right now is the way that we approach it as Next World Enterprises. And it's basically an all-in-one solution. We think it's very important to give a very robust, simple to understand solution that contains all of the elements that a company needs to roll something out like this. So you don't need to ad hoc find other solutions, try and make them fit together, and you end up with like a horrible patchwork that makes things difficult. So we decided we're going to do all of it ourselves, and we're going to make this very, very simple to understand. So you've got a hardware element, your actual VR headset. You've got the software element of the trainings, the VR experience trainings that we have developed, and you have the element of analytics, which I'll get to in just a second. So a little bit of information on hardware. Whoever you go with in the market, make sure you go with somebody that has hardware that has been made super, super simple, like no wires, no Wi-Fi needed, just takes 10 seconds to set up, no devices that still have advertisements and gaming or require a Facebook profile to actually be able to enter the device. Try and find something like what we did is basically scoop out the operating system, put our own operating system on there, which is super, super simplified. So any blue collar worker can just put it on and breeze to it and start his training in a couple of seconds. So make sure when you are comparing vendors that that is something you take in mind, because we see that has a very big effect on adoption in a company. Second part I mentioned is the VR course library, right? So what we do basically is we make like a Netflix, but instead of movies, they are VR experiences that are all tailored around virtual reality. So you see a bunch here that we've got on the screen, right? We've got about 15 active right now. So I advise you to go for a vendor that has a whole bunch of these available and somebody that makes them in-house to ensure good quality and that they can actually listen to their partners and build something they want. So we personally put out about one training each month. So we're building out this library as fast as we can. Another tip I can give for you guys here is make sure your vendor has these experiences in all of the languages that you need. So we, for example, built English, Hindi, and Arabic for all of our experiences, and we're about to launch another 15 extra languages like Punjab, Tagalog, Portuguese, French, all of that good stuff. So that's definitely something in the region that we've noticed is extremely important. So keep that in mind as well. And that leads me back to the third and final element that we think is very important for VR adoption in a company to have the biggest possible impact. And that is your analytics. So VR treated as like a coin that has two sides, right? One side is that very powerful behavioral change learning, like I said. But if you flip the coin over, there's so much data being captured there that you could do very, very cool stuff with. And what we did, and that we're very, very proud of because we spent a lot of time building this out, is we made sure that when you do one of our trainings and you put on the headset, you basically put in a unique code, and through that unique code, we know it's, for example, Branko that is doing a training, and all of the data that we capture on whether he sees a hazard and interacts with it, or he sees a hazard with his eyes go over it, but he doesn't interact with it, he doesn't identify it as a hazard, and he goes do something else. or he interacts with it, but he makes the wrong choices. All of those different data points automatically flow through our own algorithm and into our analytics platform, which you can just easily visit on the website, basically. And we use those analytics to make a report on each single unique user. And that report is made very actionable with the insights that we try and visualize for you. So what that allows you to do, basically, because you can see for every single user which mistakes that he made, which of the learning goals did he understand, which ones did he miss, what wrong choices did he make, for literally every single point in the learning experience, right? So what that allows you to do is basically zoom out and see entire teams, entire groups, company. You can even compare countries, and it allows you to really see where the knowledge gaps are in your organization. And by knowing where the knowledge gaps are, you can start predicting where incidents might actually happen. Because you can basically, if you see a whole bunch of people are scoring extremely bad at working at heights, you know you do not want to send that group of people to the next working at heights project, right? You can basically prevent an accident from happening there because you know it's a high risk scenario. That is really what we're trying to automate with our reports and the analytics platform. So that is the second most powerful thing about virtual reality. So here is another quick video on one of our virtual reality experiences around lockout tagout. So every one of our experiences is built in 3 phases. You've got a discovery phase, practice phase, and exam phase. Discovery phase means there's a voiceover that is telling you and teaching you how everything works in that specific learning topic and how you should treat certain situations. And we're at the same time visualizing this for you, making it interactive for you, but there's a lot of guidance. We're basically turning theoretical info into something visual and interactive. Then it automatically flows over into the practice phase where you are, for example, a team leader and you're supposed to do an inspection in a warehouse or in a construction yard or on an oil platform. And you are guided by our system and the voiceover. We're, for example, saying, hey, in that corner, there's something going on. There is an incident happening there. Can you identify what the problem is? How would you fix this? All of that good stuff. And then that leads into a exam part where there's almost no guidance from the system. We just say, hey, enter this room and you are the boss and find whatever mistake there is. And we even put in some false positives. And we really use all of that data without any guidance to understand and see with actual data whether that student, that worker, really would perform well in a real life situation on that topic, right? So this video as well, I'm just gonna rewind real quick. So this, for example, a fire extinguisher training that you're looking at. So there's a whole bunch of different types of fires on the desk and different types of extinguishers you can pick up and use on the different types of fires. And depending on the mix between the extinguisher and the type of fire, on the backboard on the wall, there was a matrix lighting up with colors, visually showing you what works well with what. And I know in UAE we're using letters, so this is an example from in Australia where we use colors. So yeah, that's the theoretical part, that's the discovery part. Then there's sort of a practice part where you learn the past procedure yourself and you try and put out a fire on the desk and you see somebody doing it for you and then you pick it up, pull out the pin, try it out yourself. And that flows into the final element, which is the exam part for the fire extinguishers. And you're put into the situation where there's an actual fire and you're supposed to put it out with the right tools as fast as possible and you're being graded on this, right? So that's another example of how we do the discovery, practice, exam flow within these experiences. Righto, just a quick snapshot here to give you, because I don't want to make this a commercial thing, but to give you an idea of how accessible virtual reality training has become these days. For example, with us, for less than 2,000 dirhams per month, you can basically get our entire solution. So that includes one hardware headset, unlimited access to the VR course library, and unlimited access to the learning management system and automatic assessments. So for less than 2,000 dirhams. So I mean, if you divide this by the amount of people that you would be training, you pay less than 20 dirhams per person per month to do several of these trainings, right? So it's become extremely accessible for companies to do this. But what is important is the way that you onboard your people. So let me see if I have something around that. Well, let's look at this one. So this is a case study, for example, from our work with Komatsu, and what we learned from working with partners like Komatsu or partners in the region here, like Lamprell and facility management companies like Innova by Veolia. We've learned that the way that you onboard and integrate this into your company is extremely important, because if you do that wrong, it becomes a very expensive tool that's just sitting in your closet, and you're going to be you can have a lot of inertia to switch to a new method, and you're going to stick to your old stuff because that's what you're used to, even though it's not as good. So we've learned that we really need to help our partners and our clients to onboard this properly. So we provide train-the-trainer tools. We come out and train your super users. We help you set up a project management chart that says how many people are you going to train on which topics, by when. We help you monitor whether you achieve those deliverables. We help you come up with rules like how big should a group be that you're trying to train, how fast, how many of these trainings can people do per day, all of that good stuff. We really get our hands dirty alongside you and help you out in the first couple of months so you hit the ground running and that it's a big success. And then we do studies like this where we actually ask all of the people that went through these VR trainings, like, how much do you like it? How relevant was it? How much more prepared do you feel compared to your former traditional training methods? All that good stuff. So basically, Komatsu, a very big company, spent a lot of money with us on custom work as well, which is another thing that we do. But they also use our public library of trainings, and they do over 3,000 people. They train over 3,000 workers each year, and that's still rapidly growing because they are expanding from just Australia to all across the world with us. So a lot of good stuff here, very affordable, very effective. And there's one thing I really want to share that is basically absolutely critical. And that's when you speak to your bosses and your team members and you discuss transitioning to such a revolutionary method like virtual reality, keep in mind that the reason that we're all here, people that work in health and safety, is to save lives. And that goes beyond just people actually losing their lives, but if you lose a hand, that can have huge effects on your life, because that means you're not able to do your work, which means you're not able to feed your family, you can't send money back home to them. It has very, very big repercussions, right? And we often, in our space, there's often companies and people that are less connected to HSE that forget that element, that forget that why we're actually doing this, why it's so important. They think it's all about ticking the box and regulations and rules, and that's how you end up with these very complex, very boring PowerPoint sessions. But if you find a way to actually make it engaging and you avoid those costs, that can have huge benefits for your company, because there's very direct but also indirect costs to an accident happening. And no doubt your colleagues outside of the HSE team, they know, yes, if an accident happens, we're going to have medical costs and administration costs, and we're going to have to pay people's wages that are not working and do compensation, this and that. But there's also very important indirect costs that are actually way more bad for a company once it happens, and that's the fact that when the work stops on a very expensive, very time-sensitive project, that can have huge repercussions. Very expensive tools and equipment can get damaged during an accident, which stops work as well. If you have to go out and try and train new workers, find new workers, that has a lot of opportunity costs associated with it as well. It can affect team morale when accidents happen, which lowers productivity. And for a lot of companies here in the region that we work with, reputation is key. And when something like an accident happens, it has a huge blemish on their reputation, which affects them being able to get more deals with their clients in the market as well. But the flip side is also true. If you do something very cool and revolutionary and really take a big step forward, and you do something like deploying virtual reality in your company, you can actually build up your reputation as well, because it's still pretty fresh. There's not that many companies doing it right now. we're working with all the mavericks in all the different niches, and we see that every time a company actually adopts this and deploys it, they use it for their sales and marketing as well, and their entire company and their brand looks like they are a thought leader in this space. They're really stepping up the game and saying, we don't want any accidents, we're putting in everything that we can to use technology to prevent that kind of stuff from happening. And that leads to them winning really big tenders, to looking very, very attractive to clients, but also attractive to high talents that they want to attract, right? So yeah, a very, very powerful value that you can unlock with something like this beyond just having safer workers, right? Let me see what else I have in here, because I think that's about it. Yeah, we work with a lot of training institutes across the world as well. We've got a whole bunch of customers in this region, but also in Australia. We're expanding to Europe quite rapidly, and next year we're taking a foothold in America. So yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna blabber on too much. If anybody has any questions, pop them in the chat. Like, I'd be happy to answer any live questions real quick. And yeah, that's about it, guys. Let me know. Send an email to ben.vandam@nextworld.xr if you are interested in having a demo yourself and a free trial about our product, or if you just want to chat about the effects this has on the industry, just hit us up. We're based here out of Dubai to operate in the entire GCC region, and we'd be happy to show you some cool stuff. So if there's any questions, please feel free to ask them right now. Thank you.
No questions yet, Ben and Branko. Do you have any, Branko, whilst we're waiting for questions to come through from the audience?
Well, as I mentioned it in my introduction, I was very impressed with what I saw in how real it is. Yeah, for me, I think it's the way forward. In my own organization, we have run a lot of campaigns. We do a lot of training, which is typically done in the let's say current or old-fashioned way, as in classroom-based or online training. And I think this will definitely be a game changer for a lot of organizations to be able to provide it in such a reality. Hands-on training. I was very impressed today. Yeah.
Amazing.
So still
all right,
no
guys.
questions. So if anybody has a question, now's your time to use the questions area, and Ben will answer that for you. I'm just going to pop your email address in the chat, Ben, for everyone.
My question maybe to the attendees is, anyone already has experience with virtual reality training?
I'd be interested to know if any of our customers in the region are watching this webinar by any chance. Let me know.
Nothing coming through as yet.
Beautiful. Then I'll take it. That was very clear.
Just got a question. You say there's no questions, and then there's a question. So
Very good.
So the question is, what is the process of getting a company enrolled in this training?
What is the process? You can connect with me on the email that Julie just shared in the chat, which is ben.vandam@nextworldenterprises.com or at nextworldxr.com. And we will basically start with we'll basically do a demo at your company first, just like Branko did this morning. Get you familiar with it, see how you like it when you actually go through it. Then we will see what kind of solution that you actually need, whether it's our custom work or whether it's just access to our public library, which is at a very affordable cost. And then usually we either start with a 2-week free trial if it is necessary, but we also have customers who immediately just want to go ahead and sign up and roll it out. And once you provide a PO and you say we want X amount of users, X amount of headsets. We will set up a onboarding day where we will help you choose who your super users are. So basically your internal trainers who will be the champions of rolling out VR. We'll give you a profile of what these people should be like, so you pick the right people as well. Then we will come by, we will hand deliver the headsets, and we will train these super users ourselves, spend an entire day at your office training them, giving them extra tools that they can use to train their people as well, and set up that project management roadmap, coming up with for your company what is the best fit and who needs to be trained by when and what is really achievable. And then we will do one of your first training sessions. We will be there and help your trainers do that first training session. It's as simple as that. Basically, you sign up for our fixed product. You pay for 12 months upfront. We come deliver it. We help you onboard it, and off you go with incredible results. It's as simple as that.
Great, thank you for that. So we've had another question. I'm not sure where this member is. So are certificates from this training accepted by police in the case of an accident?
I think that's a very localized thing that I'm not able to answer without actually speaking to your local police department. We do indeed have certificates that you can download from our analytics platform that shows whether somebody has done something properly. We could always, if that is important to you and that's a project that you want to do together, we could reach out to them together and give them some examples, maybe even give a demo to that police department and see whether that would be acceptable to them. Maybe to give you a little bit of context, all of our trainings, every single training is a specific topic, right? And for every topic, what we did is look at the Australian standards, which are quite high, internationally speaking. They're quite strict. And we looked at what are all the learning goals inside a Australian approved HSE topic, and we made them interactive in our training. Now, there isn't really a governing body out there right now that's already properly deploying VR, so there is no accreditation in the world. It's basically what we did is build something as close as possible to the traditional way of doing things, and we're putting it out there. We're basically disrupting the market a little bit with this. So people aren't ready yet. People aren't used to this yet. So your local police department will just never have seen this. So it's a little bit of an unknown whether they would accept it or not until you actually speak to them and you show them. But if they are pragmatic people and they look at how well it's built and what the topics are based on, I see no honest reason why they shouldn't allow it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. I can't. Oh, sorry, Branko, you first before I go on to the other comments.
I think as well that we should realize that whether it's a fire warden or first aid training, that typically is done externally and to get certified first aiders or fire wardens. So I don't think the virtual reality training in itself will replace a fire warden training, but I think it's a good add-on to at least keep the fire wardens trained and aware of how to extinguish a fire. I think it's definitely a added value. As for police, my point of view in that is that I think any training would support knowledge sharing, and I think this is just a different way of conducting a training. And with that, I think similar to Ben, I don't see if this is really different from a classroom-based PowerPoint presentation or a online video training or a virtual reality training. I think yes, I do agree it's new, but the learning goals are set up front, are tested at the end. So with that, I think it's really a benefit to train staff.
Great, thank you, Branko. Ben, excuse me, I can't remember the question you asked before we took some questions, but one of the answers is no, not yet. It might be a game changer in health and safety training.
Yep.
So I can't remember which question you asked now because it was so long ago.
Well, if there was actual uses on the session.
Ah, Okay.
Oh, yeah. Or any of our clients here by any chance, then give us a shout out in the chat.
Yeah, and if anybody didn't get Ben's contact details, just contact me at branches@rsm.org, and I'd be happy to pass on all of his contact details for you. Okay, Branko, over to you for closing comments.
Well, thank you, Ben, for the presentation. I would say the real life is even better. But yeah, that's something I fortunately have experienced earlier today. But thank you for your presentation. Again, reach out to us if there's any additional information you would like to receive on virtual reality training. Reach out to Ben directly. Reach out to us if you have experience in virtual reality training. I think it's good to share that with the members as well. And if there are no further questions, then thank you for attending this webinar. And I hope to get back to you and see you next month in our March meeting. That's all for me.
Thank you, Branko. That just leaves me to thank Ben for giving up his valuable time today to present to the UAE branch members. And thank you to Branko, who also gives up his valuable time to bring these presentations to you and to run the branch. I'd like to wish everyone a good evening or a good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and hope to see you at the next UAE branch webinar. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.